Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio Live with your hosts, Ron Lanham and Joe Perdue. If you're listening on podcast, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can now join the conversation.
Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio Live. This is our very first official live session that we're having with you guys. If you're using or if you're watching us over on Facebook, make sure that you allow the StreamYard permissions to display your comments in the feed. That way we can see them. I'm pretty sure if you're on YouTube, it's going to go ahead and let your comments roll on through. We'll be able to see those active as they are. If it does ask you for some permissions, just grant StreamYard permissions. It'll send you a little link there, and you can, just say, yeah, I want to talk to these goobers. And it's going to give them permission to let you go.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to send that information over to the FBI or anything.
No. It is just for them that you're consenting to be on there. Hey, we got Teresa and we got Barb over here with us. Awesome. Sweet. You guys are over on YouTube. Thanks for joining us here. So this week we are this is our first one here, Yeah. What's going on, Pab's Corner? Good to have you guys. We're kind of going to do our commentary on the last 2 weeks episodes because they've been really data heavy, and we're also going to be covering the news. So without any further ado, Mr. Brandon Wills, the official Wild and Weird field correspondent. What do we got at the news?
Back.
Hang on. Let's do this the right way, Brandon. There you go.
So I'm sure everybody heard the story about the UFO that was captured flying over Iraq back in 2016.
No.
Yeah, that's been flying around like crazy, huh?
Pretty sure at this point that Corbell is an employee of the government.
Right.
All this information he's getting.
Right? I mean, for real, it just seems like what. Okay, so you brought that up, and it's very interesting that you did bring that up because you do know that Corbell, right before the first great UFO report, the UAP report, he broke the story about the flying triangles over the ships. Remember that?
Yeah, he was the first one running out there with the news story and basically telling people. I'm pretty sure he shot it all out on Twitter, didn't he?
He did. And, he had that, and he had the, remember the splash, the big sphere that splashed into the ocean, right? So here he is again, and this time right after, the UFO or UAP hearing, not hearing, but report. I find it just interesting. Like you just said, Brandon, it's like, and he says he has more.
Yeah, he said he's had more for a long time. I also thought George Knapp also is an employee. If you think about it, he wrote the original Skinwalker Ranch book. He was part of that.
That's a good point.
Now he's getting all this intel from the government.
It's all a good point because, I mean, we really don't know, do we? And we have had people say this, and they said that about Luis Elizondo. What do they always say? Once you're government, you're always government, something like that, right? Right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like my clearance and everything is still mostly active. And it's essentially for any recall purposes. Like the job specifically that I did in the Air Force, it took like a year for schooling.
Yeah.
And so they want to keep a retention on certain people. Now, I can imagine in the intelligence department that kind of goes on for your entire life.
Yeah. But, here and there, this story is really starting to catch fire at this point. It's, I don't even think it's really hit its peak just yet. It's pretty significant for a few reasons. First, it's an actual unknown that was caught on an actual, legitimate surveillance craft. This was a recon aircraft over a conflict zone, and
we'll try like it's like a BB pellet being shot through the air, or a
Right.
piece of plane that's fallen off and is just happening to glide by. Like, that's pretty high up. If you look at that,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
that's at least 3
Yeah.
times the height of any of those buildings down there.
Yeah, it's up there. And supposedly, to rule that out, I guess what they had said was there's actually video of this. Now, we're not privy to the video, guys. Just
Of course not.
letting you know, we're not privy to the video, but we get a split second shot of it. Apparently, we're good enough for that. But apparently, if we see the video, it's going to be some national security threat. I don't
Yeah, you know, the way it's moving too, it reminds me of those videos. Look like a street that zoom across the screen.
Yes.
This one's just moving a lot slower.
Yes.
And
So
then,
I don't know. I don't know what this thing is. Anybody, you guys out there? I mean, hey, you're part of the audience
What's your
now.
guess?
So what's your guess?
You guys can join in and we can see your questions
This
in
isn't
real
just-
time and we can respond.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you guys think it is? I mean, do you think this thing's legit? Do we have a real UAP here? Or, like Brandon said, something's fall from a plane?
if you watch that clip too, you don't really see any heat coming out of it for a fuel source or anything either.
I have a
Closest
feeling
thing it looks like to me is like Sputnik with all the wires coming out of it.
Yeah, it does look like a
I'm
probe.
gonna go on a limb here and say it's a Mylar balloon.
Oh, Joe. Oh, man. There was a time when it
high
would be.
speed weather balloons.
Yeah, a high-speed weather balloon. That's right.
There was a time when it would be. But I will say that it is interesting. I do think that this gives a little bit of credibility to some of the reports that we have heard of these metallic spheres and so forth. And, Stan's even talked about those things for years. So there it is. This was 2016, just to bring you guys up to speed on this.
Also, those weird globules you'll see in videos where they change shape, they'll split off into like different other little blobs. Maybe that's one of those.
Yeah, you never know.
Really close.
Patrick Noble said, I think these metal spheres are sort of common. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that too. I just don't know what they are at this point.
And then
speaking of
Pat's
common,
Corner brings up a good one too. It could be a ball bearing off of a landing gear. Now, this was my job, part of my job anyway. So I've got a pretty good knowledge base on this. For it to have been something like that, it would have been having to land. There would have been major mechanical failures, which would have you would have heard of a report of a aircraft crashing on a runway somewhere. But something else like what you're saying, maybe not a ball bearing, but definitely some kind of metallic object that could have fallen out of or off of something like an exterior portion. But generally when the aircraft are flying, their landing gears fold up and then the belly swallows them and seals up around them.
I'm going to kind of guess that part of the footage that they're not letting us see probably rules that out. And I'm also going to guess that there's probably some thermal footage that they're not showing us. I got a feeling. I just got a feeling. But who knows? Maybe that's part of the we have more to show, right? So
yeah, right. It very well could be.
Yeah.
So you can tell from those declassified documents too that they try their hardest to debunk things.
Mm-hmm.
Use methods beyond my understanding to try.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So this is one that they couldn't really debunk, and as well as I do, they tried. That's their job. So there's something there that we're not seeing.
So what else do we got in the news?
Yeah, speaking of metallic balls in the sky, not long after that, yesterday, there was a story that came out with a TikTok of a metal sphere that fell out of the sky in this guy's yard.
Yep, this one's from Spooky Appalachia.
About halfway in the ground.
Yeah,
this was a weird one, wasn't it?
It was, and that's a misleading photo, by the way. The actual photo of it doesn't look a thing like that.
Yeah, no, like the image, the thumbnail they used, I'm pretty sure is a 3D rendered object.
Yeah, that looks like a 3D physics render to me.
Yeah.
Maybe like a slow motion capture of a ball bearing falling on a mattress or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But the actual image of it doesn't look like that. And I mean, personally, from what I saw of it, I think no, it didn't fall out of the sky. I mean, whatever's there is buried in the ground. There's no sign of an actual crater or impact crater.
No, and like there's no cracks in the earth around it
Right.
either. There's no trail. Things don't usually just drop straight out of the sky. They come at an angle.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I don't know about that story. It's kind of odd.
I don't think he faked it either because it
No.
doesn't look like there's any loose earth around it. There's grass growing around the sides of it.
Yeah, there's something out there. It's just something there on the, yeah.
It reminds me of those spherical rocks that they've been finding all over the world. Those perfect spherical rocks.
Yep.
There's a picture of one that's been infamous of a giant perfect sphere that's under the earth, like 100 feet tall or something. It's huge.
Well, it's like the Moki balls, right, Joe? I mean, like we collect those, the little Moki.
Yeah, the little Moki balls. Those are
Yeah.
actually pretty interesting. I think I actually have one right here.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it reminded me of when I saw the actual image. It's like, that looks like a giant Moki ball. And I'm pretty sure that it could be what we're looking at.
I don't. It's upstairs. I don't have it with me here.
Oh, well, anyway, I'll insert a picture of a Moki ball at some point, possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in other news, we have, and I thought this was very interesting personally. Dave put this one up for us, and that was the discovery of a 1.2 million year old obsidian axe factory in Ethiopia. Now,
I like the phrase that they used there. That was interesting. An axe factory. It's kind of misleading.
It is.
It's not necessarily a factory in the modern sense of things, but definitely showed the semblance of that. This was a almost an assembly line.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's 1.2 million years old. That means that stone napping at least either evolved 1.2 million years ago, or the survivors of something, had to resort to stone napping again 1.2 million years ago. I just wonder how many times we've had to resort to stone napping and try to learn it. I don't know. I'm just guessing. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the Fallen World series, it's at least a couple.
It's a couple. It could be a couple. But all right, you guys keep watching the comments. I'm just kind of rolling.
Oh yeah, I'm keeping an eye on them over here.
Okay, cool.
They were a long ways away from forging.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I thought of a better title for that article. They could have called it Caveman Sweatshop.
Yeah.
Right. That would have worked. Absolutely. Also, and this is appropriate, I thought, our old boy is back in the news. Gary Nolan was on the Merged podcast, episode 1. It's a fantastic episode, by the way. If you guys have not listened to it, go listen to it. He says some things that are, they are what they are. I mean,
we really need to try to reach out to him.
He is an amazing individual,
and just see if we could get his attention with some of the research data that we've collected, and see if that would appeal maybe to his scientific side to intrigue him to come on the show.
He actually talks a little bit about what drives him in this interview, and I really liked it for that fact. He's not driven by, what's behind this. He's driven by how it works and figuring out a commercial gain from how it works, basically. And he's right, because whoever cracks that code, whoever figures out how it works,
instant rich.
They're gazillionaires immediately. Yeah. I mean, and that's why you see a lot of these companies, we get people, well, why are they taking it seriously now? They're taking it serious for 2 reasons. They're taking it, and we'll talk about that later too. But one of the reasons is money. Lots of money.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of money at stake.
Insane amounts of money.
Insane amounts of money that, I mean, think of the technological advances that we've had after, major wars, right? It's the same kind of thing, except we don't have the war, or do we? We'll talk about that later. Anyway, I'm going to pull this up because this is everyone's God-given duty to do. Let's get the Mothman Museum voted the best pop culture museum, please. Every day you can go on the site and vote. We'll have links up to that in the description as well. But you can also, of course, I think I posted it over on the group, and you can go over there and vote as well. But every day you can vote at least once.
Yep.
So let's get it back up there. They were at number 1 for a while. They fell to number 2, and now they're sinking. They're sinking. The Mothman.
Come on, guys, we got to get behind them.
This is, come on. This is West Virginia and beyond. And Mothman is universal. Let's be real. It doesn't matter if you're from West Virginia or not, but there's only one Mothman Museum in the whole world.
Possibly in the entire universe.
Possibly in the entire, well,
or
this
the
universe,
multiverse.
maybe. There could be more in the multiverse.
There's one in the Fallout 76 universe.
There is.
Oh, well, okay. So the multiverse runs shot. We do have one, but the one in Fallout 76 is kind of in shambles.
Man, don't talk to me about Fallout 76 after that last update that they just did. They destroyed it. Literally destroyed it.
What they do?
Dude, you know how everybody wanted the legacies out of the game, right? They wanted legacies out of the game forever. They took the legacies out of the game, but guess what else they did? They messed up so much stuff across the board. It's not funny. One of the things that they did is the weight perks don't work. I was almost 2,000 pounds. Anybody who knows me knows that that's okay. That's probably kind of normal in this game for me, but not 2,000 pounds. I mean, you will literally crawl. And until those work, it's just pretty much unplayable for a lot of people. So anyway.
Yeah, if you ever catch Ron out in the wasteland in this game, he has every piece of loot he's ever collected on his person. Forget storing it in his house or in his in a stash away. He carries it all
just in case. You never know. It's just like real life. I mean, come on. We go out into the woods. What do you saw the video? What do you take? Just in case. You never know.
Yep.
But
take it all.
Yeah, take it all. So you got any more news out there, guys, or was that kind of the news?
Oh, well, there's that story about the Earth's core.
The Earth's core. I totally forgot about the Earth's core.
Every time this happens, I get so excited.
Yes,
because it happens at least once a decade. This will show up, and I just get amped because in that moment, everything's all wonky in the middle. All it would take is getting grazed the wrong way, and then we'd be done.
No, you're probably right. I mean,
it'd be cataclysmic. By something small, just because the axis would roll, and we'd be, God knows what would happen. I mean, there's evidence that it's happened in the geologic structure of the planet. It's at least happened in recorded time once. That was like.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting to look back at that data that they have and see if it kind of corresponded to an event where the Earth was undergoing one of these, these switches or reversals, or just stops, because it has to stop before it restarts again.
Yeah.
So there's a point where it just stops. What does that do to the magnetic field?
Oh, here's a good one for the news.
Chaos.
Patrick Noble says, has anyone seen the comet and the asteroid coming close tonight?
I have not. I did track the comet, which is very interesting. If you have your smartphone, there's a couple of apps you can get to do that. And I found it very interesting, the orbit that actually shows up. It's like a big circle, basically. I mean, in the sky. Usually it's a grand arc, across when a comet comes in. But this thing is pretty much on a circular trajectory.
And what the 28th, I think, is the last day to see it. Is that right?
I believe you might be. I'm not going to say, but I can't remember.
I think it's the 28th.
I think it goes into February, but it's going to change. And it's not, I don't think it's negative eye visibility yet either. So you've really got to get out there and know where you're looking and have some binoculars.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the 28th, I think, is the last day that you're actually going to be able to visibly see it.
Possibly. Very possible.
Maybe it's not a comet.
Hey, now you're going to start talking like that. One guy who started the cult. Come on. We don't need no more Applegates.
Oh, did you
Jeez.
The current leader of Scientology has gone missing?
What? No.
No, he was just
David Miscavige is missing, so maybe that's where he went.
Maybe he went on the Comet.
Well, now
He hitched a ride.
Wow, I'm mind blown. Anyway, I believe is that all the news we got, boys? Is that it?
That is currently, I believe, all the news, and we're ready to tackle.
That just makes me so happy.
So we are ready to tackle the rest of this discussion, because that's what this episode is really going to be, and we want you all to chime in with us, because it is, if you've listened to the last 2 weeks episodes, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, right?
Oh my goodness. There's a lot to talk about. And, I really hope that they have been listening to the last few episodes, because if not, it's going to be kind of confusing.
Maybe, but they'll at least get a good amount of information from the discussion.
Well, this is true. This is very true, because tonight we get to go into speculation land, and that's going to be interesting. But yeah, here we go. That's what I was trying to do. If you haven't listened to episodes 1 and 2, we just did part 2 last week. It's available on the YouTube, obviously. You want to watch that, and there's some stuff on there that's a little different that you may not hear all the time. Am I saying that right?
Yeah,
kind of.
I think that would be correct.
Right, kind of.
It's okay, Carly. You can be confused. You can just shoot us messages, and we can answer them in real time, because we're here.
Yes, so, absolutely. Ask questions. Anyone, everyone.
Yeah, anybody. If you have questions throughout any of this, or if you even have a thought about some of this stuff, we will stop and grab it and have the conversation with everybody, because that's what this whole live show is all about. We're going to be doing this most likely at least once a week, and it's going to be separate from the rest of our shows. Like, our podcast is still going to continue rolling as usual, but we're going to come up here and we're going to hang out with you guys and have discussion about random things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I could
also, if you guys are over on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and mash that subscribe button, and then hit the like button too, and tell your friends about it. And for the rest of us, regularly scheduled live show. So we essentially this two-part episode, followed by the discussion, was brought up because, as you guys remember, if you've listened to the year-end review, we were making predictions there at the end. Well, it wasn't 2 days after we had recorded those predictions that some information started coming out.
Right.
And we started seeing these documents be released that were talking about essentially contact, and more particularly using people as a conduit. Would that be correct?
I would say that would be correct. At least using people as a meter, a measure, for exposure, like figuring out the exposure, so to speak. And let's see, I'll find one of those for you. Yeah, this is the one that literally, everyone heard about, but it came out, not too people really thought too much about it until someone put it all together. And hang on a sec, right here. Bear in mind, this is our first show, so expect technical difficulties.
Learning the kinks and working them out as we go.
Expect it. It's just going to happen.
Should have seen us before we started.
Huh?
Should have seen us before the show started.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So this is the document that pretty much started the whole thing as far as it goes. And what that is the DRD report, the anomalous acute and subacute field effect on human biological tissue. Now, that big word basically means that all these pages go on to verify and validate the fact that there is measurable medical evidence when people come in, or some people, I shouldn't say people, but some
Yeah,
people
not all.
come
It's
come into
extreme
contact.
cases when they come into
Mhm.
close contact, or when they come into I guess it would say like a exceptional contact
Yes.
experiences.
Yeah.
So
Very near. near field.
your random UFO sighting is most likely not going to cause this.
No.
But one of the cases mentioned was one of the situations where the nuclear missiles were shut down, and how the night sky was turned to day. Those gentlemen were left with what looked like sunburns shortly after this exposure, and it went on to be more than just sunburns. They were displaying radiation sickness. They were having like third-degree burns, lesions that would appear. It was
Yeah.
it was not.
There's your pretty much what you're going to get with some of the exposure.
Is that at the base in Nebraska?
Yeah.
Read those down through
I've heard
there.
about that before.
So basically what we're saying is there is evidence that suggests that now some of these people were exposed to this phenomena, and something measurable did occur. Dr. Nolan goes on record actually talking about that, and we have a lot of that in the previous episodes. But we believe that there's also evidence to support that they were, what does Travis always say? They were out there poking the bear, so to speak.
Yeah, poking the bear.
They were poking the bear.
That's what Dr. Travis always says is we're
Yeah.
gonna go out and poke the bear and see if it does something back.
Yeah, and apparently it did something back. So the theory is that all these, or not all, but most of these UAP things that you're seeing that broke, in the news, which was the Nimitz encounter, the flyover of the ships there not too long ago, they may have happened for a reason. They may have been baiting exercises or experiments, is what they're saying.
Because the government has had these programs running back into the 50s, and a lot of this data is pulled from some of those. And there was a key figure that was present from 1966 on, and that was Mr. Joe McGonigal. Joe
McGonigal and Harold Putoff.
Yeah.
And what is interesting about that is that we got these people who, for whatever reason, they were extremely interested in things such as what someone call esoteric knowledge, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what it would be called. So this goes back to one of my favorite subjects, by the way. This is released by the Black Vault. If you can see here, this was a CIA release. It has been declassified. It's approved for release. But what this is the right up on the gateway procedure. And basically it was the findings that proved that, I mean, you can look at this stuff. It's pretty mind-blowing. This pretty much proved to them anyway that this is how you could remotely view or remotely manipulate your opponent, the ultimate reconnaissance, and more. And it kind of seems like some of this is what they were using to actually get out there. And as they were out there, they kind of made a form of contact. Is that what I'm trying to get at here, Joe?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what you're getting at.
Yeah. I'm just trying to say it in a way that, I'm not saying that, they went out and talked to aliens, because that's not what they did.
Right.
They made a form of contact with a higher intelligence of some sort, is what it seems to be pointing at.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is you look at some of this imagery, these fields and torus fields and whatnot. People who are familiar with some of the Eastern meditation practices and with some of the energy healing. This is pretty common in that. And they were kind of weaving all this together. and figuring out that they could actually go out into these other, I don't want to call them universes. They're not universes. You know, esoteric term would be astral plane, but whatever.
Right.
There's no words for this stuff. It's kind of like what you always say. We need
The
new
lexicon's
words.
broke. There's no
We
real
need new
words for
words.
this. But they essentially what they were doing was they were just reaching out and touching something.
Something.
And
something may have reached
they were
out.
using practices from that are common spirituality practices.
Yeah.
Common in mysticism, common in so many corners of the Eastern world. And they were, for lack of a better term, making contact with something. And these are declassified documents. These are government programs that they said didn't exist, but 100% did exist for decades. Surprise.
Yes.
So what do you think, like, you know, we talked about how some of these people, once they were exposed, that there was things that altered them, like either on a physical level or just they were more sensitive to everything at that point. What's your thought about some of that stuff, man? Because like I know me personally, like I've got some ideas about it, but what are you guys thinking about that? Because I know we've looked at this for now. This is going to be 4 weeks technically for me and Ron, and you know there's a lot of stuff in here that supports a lot of claims that have been made over the decades. And what do we do with that information?
I don't know, but good evening from Point Pleasant there, Mothman Cam. God bless you. Okay. Anyway, sorry. The live thing, it's just new to me. I'm sorry. It's a fascinating new world. How do I don't know, Joe. I mean, I think that I have multiple thoughts on this. I really do. I think that we have to ask ourselves some questions, first of all. We need to ask ourselves, why now? I think that's important.
Yeah.
Why now? Why are they releasing all this? We've been told that, you know, someone found this information and ran with it. You know, they found information for years, guys.
It's just this isn't necessarily one of those things where somebody found information and ran with it. This is like the disclosure operation has started. Like, in my opinion, I said this on the show a couple weeks ago, that disclosure has already happened.
It has.
The government has admitted to it. It wasn't this big grandiose UFO on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
But
it was just a little piece here and there. Now we got to put it all together.
Right. Now we've got to find it all because they've released all this data. You're seeing all of these reports from the CIA. You're seeing all these reports. You've got these DIRD reports that are coming out that we're seeing. You've got these different intelligence reports that are dropping out that we're seeing. Then just to compound it all, there was that, 23,000 pages that the CIA dropped a couple years.
Oh, it was a ridiculous amount.
And that's when we went through and we found the whole Mars thing about they verified their remote viewing project and said, it actually was a thing. And this is what we did. Here's our results.
Well, think about
one
that.
of the weirdest things.
Well, okay, but there it was. It's in there.
Yeah.
And they were like, let's throw that in there. Do you think it was by chance that they threw that in there? Did they throw it in there just to discredit the whole thing? I don't think so.
No. This is one of those things where I think you're throwing out all this information and they're like, okay, follow the bread trail.
That's exactly what it is. It's a bread trail. And that's what we have to do, is to put together, this puzzle. That's all the pieces are pretty much laid in front of us now. I mean, not all of them, but we've got the corner pieces, so we can start putting this thing together and see what that picture is going to turn into.
Patrick is exactly right. We can thank FOIA requests for that. And the fact that people just inundated, it wasn't just one or two FOIA. This was hundreds of people sending in requests for this information. And you are exactly right.
100% right. But what does it mean, guys? I mean, that's what it comes down to. What does this mean? Like, why?
Well, it brings new meaning. What it does is it brings new meaning into the Nimitz account.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it means in the grand picture, other than the fact that essentially the timeline that the government used to think they had doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But
So is it like
with
yeah.
with the Nimitz account and what happened there.
So is it just like Close Encounters? You know,
Pab's Corner says they're trying to prepare us for when the aliens show up and they won't be able to cover it up.
you
That
just
is
nailed it.
exactly what we have been saying.
You
Literally, for
just
years.
nailed it. Yes.
Ron has I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting across the dinner table from Ron
Nailed
back
it.
in like 2010, and this was something that he would say.
Yeah, I believe that absolutely, because we are. I mean, look, come on, guys. I mean, every day we get a new phone, and the images get better and better. My God, they have LiDAR on them now.
So Teresa says recently read Phenomenon, and mainly about the government's research into remote viewing. And the last chapter was pretty much on how everyone in the book was now researching UAPs and similar topics. That's exactly right. You are exactly right.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And what got me interested in that was, I mean, this was forever ago, but I remember hearing some of the interviews with Joe McGonigal and some of these other guys, and they all said, yeah, we met beings over there. Okay.
Well, talking about meeting beings, we met beings over there. This is a perfect example. Patrick Noble, tell he's listening to the show because he's got his opinions formed and he's sharing a lot of the same ones that we've got, slowly leaking information to the public through movies and books. That's 100% right.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
We met beings over there. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was that movie. And it even had J. Allen Hynek was in the movie, not Kent. Like he was in the movie. And then Jacques Vallée was referenced. He was the French scientist. That's who he was supposed to be, but Jacques didn't. Unfortunately, Jacques wasn't in it. I'd loved it. If he was in it, it'd have been like the perfect signal. Like, here it is, aliens. But
I think it was the perfect signal, regardless.
Oh yeah, it really was. You're right.
I really do.
I like to think of it as like how a lot of video games and movies do it now, where they will leak information to the public, like drop little hints of like what's coming out, so you can get an idea of what it is, to build up anticipation for it, and that way more people are interested in debuts.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much coming down to this realization that a lot of us, when we're not crazy, we've been onto something for a while. We're seeing it echoed in media at this point. There's been the slow trickle feed, but now it's like we've turned it up to like drops per second at this point, and it's an acceleration, and it's getting more accelerated every single week with people like Corbell coming out with what he's doing. The only problem I see with this, and it's a big one, guys, a huge one. They released the image of the sphere, right?
Yeah.
Everybody under the sun is going to have images of the sphere.
Yep.
Flying through the yard, flying over their dog.
Well, it had already started. There were people who had Carly had actually sent me a video
of the one with the jet planes.
Yep, with the jet planes that came overhead.
Yeah.
And they're showing up everywhere, literally everywhere.
Yeah.
And because it's the same thing that happened before.
It is.
They see it. You got people who are hungry for clicks, so they're putting this stuff out there, trying to be the next viral photo or whatever. And a lot of the stuff, unfortunately, is just bunk. So Patrick, thank you. Y'all have great information. I fell in that rabbit hole many, many years ago. It's a fun rabbit hole to be down, though. I got to give it that. It can be a little dark and scary, but it is a fun rabbit hole to be in. And it's good to be in the same rabbit hole as you, my friend.
Oh yeah, AI fakes too.
I'm not even going there.
Those are big.
Oh yeah,
but you know what? I will go there for this point.
What?
If you watch the Nolan interview, he doesn't say what he thinks this is. By the way, he says that his colleagues don't believe that it is what he thinks it is, and through some interesting words throughout the whole interview. You almost get the feeling that he thinks that we're dealing with an AI.
Yeah.
You almost get the feeling that
kind of do. He alludes to it without saying that it's artificial intelligence, but because what he says is it's an intelligence that's like way faster than we can comprehend.
And that's what I've said multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about that thing, you know, the Tic Tac, what arrived at their cap point. Well, how could you figure that out? You know, no human probably could figure that out, could they? Unless they had the actual ability to see, you know, the data. But yeah, I thinking he's right. I think that you are dealing with some kind of a super intelligence kind of thing. Now, whether it's artificial or not, I couldn't tell you, but you know, that's a point, I guess. You know, speaking of
real quick, this goes back to the references in pop culture and stuff. Carly brings up another good point. The Fourth Kind was one of those found footage documentary kind of deals that dealt with the extra dimensional sides and aspects of contact encounters.
That's true. Absolutely. I'll give you another pop culture reference. I just watched recently and I had no idea. Have any of you guys ever seen Moonfall?
Yes.
What? The last, I mean, the movies to me is just it's funny, it's hilarious, and then you get to that last part and it's like someone
knows something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got to. I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. And yeah, if you haven't watched Moonfall, go watch it. That's all I'm going to say about that, and particularly watch the last 20 minutes of it because
that's the important part. That's the part that's like the whole movie is like, yeah, okay, but that last 20 minutes, like, oh, what? Well,
I'm not saying what it is.
So, going back to, we mentioned another guy. We got McGonagall. We've got Putoff. Then we've got Kit Green and Gary Nolan now. Those are the ones that are who we've got with us now that are doing the stuff. We've mentioned Gary already multiple times. And I think the biggest red flag for us personally, the biggest red flag for us was when we first found out that Gary Nolan was on any kind of UAP task force and his job that he had on the task force. Instantly, flags started running up the pole. We're like, wait a minute. Why would this guy be on this team if there's nothing there?
He wouldn't
be because
tell Carly that was 2022 is when Moonfall came out.
Yeah, Moonfall, Carly. Moonfall came out last year. Really good graphics.
Elizondo also working for a department that dealt with disinformation at one point.
Yeah.
That's one of those red flags that everybody brings up about him, but
it is.
I think he's incredible.
But with Nolan, Nolan has been going out and doing some interviews over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Nolan, the way he's conducting these interviews and the way he's going about dissemination of this information is very careful. You can tell he wants to say something.
I have to. This is great. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's V'ger. That's an old Star Trek reference. That was great. Live long and prosper, my friend. Thank you. Awesome.
And so this the way he's disseminating information is so careful. You can tell he's signed NDAs about certain things and he's under lock and key on certain topics. Other stuff, for example, being one of the most disputed contact experiences in history, the Rendlesham Forest incident. He all but confirmed it. I think we lost Ron. Ron's been abducted, y'all. So what essentially happened here until Ron gets back is Gary Nolan was on with, I think it was Tucker Carlson. He was doing a in-depth 1 hour, it's like an hour and a half interview. And he was talking about a ton of stuff. We will insert a link to that YouTube video to be able to watch that as well. And the whole incident took place in it was back in, I think it was the 80s. I had to give me 1 second. I'll give you guys the actual dates because I'm just going from memory right now.
Rendlesham was like 82, wasn't it?
I think so.
Early 80s, I believe.
So essentially what happened was 1980. It was December 26th and 28th, December 1980. And these UFOs were coming down and appearing over top of the munitions stores, the caches that had all the nukes in them, and all the defensive weapons were all there. And they were coming in and they turned night to day. It was crazy. Everybody's watching. Apparently my wife is watching upstairs and and my son is watching, just said, "Where's Ron?" So
to meet his people.
Anyway, we were dealing with this account that was extremely disputed because they said for many years, for one that one of the gentlemen that was the in the encounter never had a military record. They completely scrubbed him. And he was unable to get VA assistance for the injuries, both mental and physical, that he had accrued until John McCain's office, before John McCain passed, went out and actually verified him through certain channels and got him his VA credentials, and everything was all set and taken care of for him. But, you know, he experienced radiation burns on his hands. He experienced PTSD, all kinds of stuff. And for years, they have denied it. So many people have come forward and tried to debunk this and thought they had successfully debunked it. It'd been on TV multiple times, and these researchers were coming out and dropping the band hammer on it and be like, no, this didn't happen. Blah, 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 blah. This date and this date were wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Well, Gary Nolan comes out on TV and says it happened and validates that he has worked with the guy that was the one who touched the UFO. And like he just said it nonchalant. He was just sitting there, he's talking about it. He's like, oh yeah, like, you know, one of the most famous cases I've worked on was the Rendlesham Forest case. And you know, it took forever to get this guy the help that he needed. And he did suffer from various afflictions based off this encounter. And I'm sure that the majority of the world that was watching that interview at the time was just like, oh yeah, Rendlesham Forest. And then all of a sudden, all the people like us who've been in the UFO stuff, who've been into all the paranormal for so long, when they heard the whole Rendlesham Forest deal, like everybody, because like as soon as I heard it, I stopped what I was doing. I texted Ron. I'm like, Ron, he just said Rendlesham Forest, and Ron is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Aliens.
That's why I said we got abducted, but we're back.
Yep. Aliens.
Ron, do you have any radiation burns?
Don't think I do. No.
So we just gave him the whole Rendlesham Forest rundown and how Gary Nolan confirmed that Rendlesham actually was a real event.
Yeah, that really stuck out in my mind as well. And you know, you just can't ignore this guy. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about that.
Isn't that man the same one who later developed cancer? That's why he was trying to get VA assistance. If
it wasn't him, it was the other witness, because one of them did develop cancer.
Yeah, one of them had all kinds of problems with.
Yeah, one was just riddled with issues. He was the one that had the radiation burns from the night turn to day thing.
Burroughs is the one who had issues with the Veterans Office and whatnot, I believe.
Yep, we talked about him.
Yeah.
So that really stood out, and because this guy's taking a look, Gary Nolan is taking a look at all the physical side effects. He's following Kit Green's work, and they're working together. They have worked together, and continuing forward with the ramifications of these. I mean, I guess we'd call them incursions, where you have these exposures to high levels of radiation, and what they called it blue shift. Was it blue shift or blue phase?
It's a blue shift. Yeah.
So they described it as blue shift when these objects would seemingly put off a ton of energy. And when those blue shifts occurred, that is when things had tended to have ramifications for the individual who witnessed it.
Yeah, the blue shift is a terminology that talks about how far out the wave propagates, and you see there's blue shifting, and then there's red shifting, which is even further out. But where it's in the blue shifting phase, that is close to the near field, and that's where you get into issues, because basically you're pretty much in the microwave beam at that point.
Well, you just brought up the near field exposure issues, and that was part of this report. And what Patrick brings up, saying that the UAP report said that no one had been hurt.
Well, we know that's not true.
The previous letter that we had seen that was disclosed blatantly went against what that report said.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of this. We're seeing years of these lies and these cover-ups, and they're just, well, this is why we said that, or this is what happened here, and you got to remember they're getting ready to vote on this very soon. If that whistleblower legislation goes through, things are about to really change, because who's going to come out.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be anything they can do to stop him.
No.
And then it's going to be like, well, told you so. And that's what's going to happen, because, like him or not, or believe him or not, when Lazar comes out,
yeah,
and I do believe he will. It's going to hit the fan at that point.
I mean, he's done so much already to come out. Like, they've done a lot, but like when it comes to an official capacity, if they can get, if he can muster the gumption to do it,
right?
That will validate
enough.
Right.
So Brandon, what are your thoughts? Because I know you've listened in, you've read all the stuff that we've been sending with the notes and everything too. What do you think about all this craziness?
I think a lot of it is much older than we think it is, because if you look at a lot of mythologies, like first thing popped in my head was Norse mythology. They believed the universe is in multiple layers. There are different worlds connected by the world tree, they call it. And the gods travel to these planes using a gateway. Sound familiar?
Yeah, I mean, it's sounds like some sort of Stargate.
What now? A star what?
What?
Project what?
Stargate. Like the government project.
Yeah. The one that they made a movie based on. That was just science fiction.
And the longest running science fiction series in history.
It was.
Because it is
kind of interesting to me too. Some people I've read, they think that Marvel Comics has been part of that for a long time.
Oh, they have.
Especially with the
Disney,
movies lately.
Kirby.
Disney and Marvel. No,
Jack Kirby, man.
Disney was tangled up when it back during the Holloman landing. They were actually working on a documentary that got nixed. That was all about disclosure, essentially. And there was like a brief 6-second clip that made it around, and was
allegedly that's the real clip.
Huh?
Allegedly, that is the real clip.
Allegedly, it is a real clip. And it's been in a couple documentaries now. And it looks legit. I mean, you couldn't fake it back then if you tried to anyway, especially with the kind of camera that it was being recorded on. Like, you can't.
Yeah, it looks pretty crappy.
It's
Which
garbage.
It should.
But it should look bad.
Yeah, it should look
because it was recorded on a military grade camera. Long. And everything military grade is just like me, falling apart. And so,
yeah.
It's one of these deals where we're looking at this footage, we're seeing this brief 6 seconds or whatever, and you see the thing come down to land. It's at Holloman Air Force Base, and Disney was supposed to have been tied up with that. So it's no doubt in my mind that Marvel would be tied into that either, especially with their affiliation now with Disney.
I just think that you know, it hasn't stopped. It's only accelerated at this point. And there's so much of this old stuff that's out there. Like, we don't even need the new stuff, guys. Give us just let's revisit some of the old stuff that you told us wasn't real,
Yeah.
like the Holloman landing, like
All the stuff in Project Blue Book.
oh geez,
All the stuff in Grudge.
When we're looking at Roswell, and we're looking at before Roswell now with the event in Trinity, and that is a very big deal, and that's why they pushed that back. You remember originally when the UAP report came out, the very first one, we're not interested or going to focus on anything, old. Basically, they were not going to go past the 2004 events. They were not interested in that. And then all of a sudden, Congress says, "Yeah, you are." And I thought it was interesting. I told you when they didn't go to 1947, but they went to 1945, because that is when Valet, his research pointed to the crash out there near Trinity, and that was directly in relation, they think, to us testing atom bombs.
So what do you guys out in the audience? What do you guys think? While Brandon's getting ready to do his, go ahead and start sounding off out there in the file. We'll watch for your comments, and we're gonna get into those.
Something I just thought of. Did anyone who witnessed Mothman ever mention any physical effects?
That's a good question.
It was alluded to in the movie, the Mothman Prophecies movie. It was alluded to there.
But in reality, other than a sense of dread and fear, did anyone actually have any physiological effects after witnessing the creature or the entity? That's a very.
I don't think I've really heard that mentioned. Like,
okay, Teresa,
pop her up.
Teresa says,
yes.
Yeah, some eye issues. Well, that light sensitivity is one of the side effects that was mentioned by Gary Nolan.
Right.
And Kit Green.
Right. And we have pretty much, even when we were giving our lecture down there, we went over the EM, because there's evidence that EM was in the area in heavy amounts because of the TV's receptions messing up and whatnot. Yep. So
radio transmissions going out, TVs messing up. Yeah.
So it's very theoretical, but I would say that it's definitely a possibility. And we also have to remember that there were massive amounts of UFO activity at that time too. Oh, yeah. So we can't really say Mothman per se, but we can say that during the period when that was happening, it does appear that there was something going on. Thank you, Teresa. Awesome.
So Patrick says, I'm 64. I've been holding hands with Bigfoot waiting for disclosure.
There's a good
Teresa
question.
says, Connie Joe Carpenter experienced Klieg conjunctivitis eye burn for 2 days.
Yep, that would be basically, was it pink eye, right?
Yeah, well, it's this eye burn, pink eye, conjunctivitis is pink eye. Mm-hmm. But the first little bit is the differentiation from the funk in the eye. So I think that one may be a little bit different than just your standard run.
That is very interesting.
Eyeball.
And I just wonder, now it's almost like Teresa, we need to go back and look at some of try to find the medical records of some of these past witnesses.
And I'm sure you would be the person that probably already has all that data. So we need to get in touch with you and work on that little project and see what we can come up with.
I'll bet there's something there. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I will bet there's something there.
I'm going to bet if the Men in Black actually worked for the government, when they came to Point Pleasant, they were checking everybody's medical records.
Dude, I mean, there's a very good point to that, is that maybe that's why they were there.
Carly says, did that take place after seeing the Mothman? Yes, that is what we're referring to right there with those. The eye burn for 2 days was actually after a sighting. So, again, it goes back to the UFO flaps that were going on there in Point Pleasant too. Mm-hmm. And this is just me throwing it out there, just because.
Swing it.
What if some of those Mothman sightings were screen memories?
Hey, I didn't say that. You did. I'm proud of you.
Did Woody ever mention anything
like
after
little boys growing up?
What was that, Brandon?
Did Woody ever mention anything after being around Indrid?
Woody mentioned all kinds of stuff about being around Denver. He wrote
Oh, I
2
mean,
whole books.
You mean health
like physiological? Did he mention anything?
No, he actually didn't mention anything. He actually seemed to be in better condition and better mentality after his excursions.
Other than the fact that, his life went to crap after
Yeah.
he, came out and told his story. But, other than that, I don't think so.
So Carly asks, is that eye burn or any kind of other side effect, is that common with any other creature, or that being the lack of a better term? It's really not. It does seem to have roots in the UFO phenomena going back forever, like way back. Like if you look on the Egyptian cave wall, or not Egyptian cave walls, but the Egyptian pyramid.
You just said Egyptian cave walls on a live broadcast.
I did.
I think we're done.
We're done. This is over. Everybody, we're the laughing stock of the weird community now. But the Egyptian hieroglyphs on the some of the not the tombs, okay, but in some of the other like regarded areas, you'll see these things with light coming out of them. And as Giorgio would say, what if? It's possible that those things could have took place and would have caused radiation burns.
Well, we also know that on those hieroglyphs, and I will say hieroglyphs because the petroglyphs, the hieroglyphs, we've seen beings. There's Ike. Check it out.
What's going on, brother?
So we've
seen. Remember when Moses went to the burning bush? He came back and his skin was.
Yes,
he did.
Yes,
when Moses went to the burning bush, he came back and he was glowing.
Yes, exactly.
Translation,
his face was
like
what did it say? It's somebody's face, right? His face was different.
Well, no, his face was glowing. Like it hurt their eyes to look at him. So like they would actually shield their faces from seeing Moses's face because it shone so brightly.
Yeah, he was probably burning off with radiation. That's what we're saying. But on these petroglyphs, we see the pictures of the beings, and they have these rays, right, coming out. Yeah. Even angels, the angels, they have the rays on the old the old paintings.
Yeah, they did.
Radiance. Radiance, radiation, radiance. We're talking about the same thing. Brandon's right. I mean, I think you're right anyway. Everybody else may think you're nuts, but I think
you guys the new Rob Zombie song title.
No.
It was a song of UFO.
No. But anyway, yeah, I think that there's a lot of this that is going on. It has been going on for a very long time, and that's what Nolan reaches to. Whatever this isn't new. It's been going on.
And he said that repetitively. He said that on every public broadcast that he's been on, has said that this is not something new. Pab's Corner says physiological reactions after encounters with alien beings would make sense just with what we know about what happens with the germ exposure, even without radiation. That is exactly why Gary Nolan is working in this project, is because he is the immunologist, like the lead immunologist for one of the big Ivy League schools up in New England.
Yeah, he was Stanford.
Actually,
yeah. But he's worked with a lot of people. And I don't know, guys, but I will ask you this question, because we've got to move on from the physiological effects of this. I want to ask you about the other part that we just discussed last week, the truth behind the so-called hitchhiker effect.
Oh, this is good.
Okay. When I first heard about it, I'm like, well, that's weird. But then when I looked back and I looked at some personal cases, my own, for example, with the weird stuff and how weird people just keep coming around me. And now I'm sitting on a podcast talking about weird stuff.
With weird people.
With weird people. So maybe there's a little truth to that. That's what I'm saying. And maybe it's not always bad. That's also a part I'm getting at.
Patrick, I would say that is a very strong likelihood, though those cases weren't exactly mentioned by Gary at any point in time. Any of those weird exposures, he has been in contact with those individuals and worked with them. So I would say that's a yeah.
Yeah.
But no, back to what you were saying with the hitchhiker effect, man.
Yeah, with the hitchhiker effect. And another thing that Gary was talking about was that whole it pretty much proved the screen memory thing. At least that
Yeah.
something's messing with the image center of our brain. That's a fascinating bit of data that people just like, yeah, meh.
Well, we're talking about so for anybody who might be with us or hanging out with us right now, and watching later once this goes up, the hitchhiker effect. What we're talking about there is where you experience a phenomena of any kind, some kind of weird, strange phenomena, and then it seems to follow you no matter where you're at. It's not just at that one location. It follows you home. It follows you back to your workplace. It follows you everywhere you go. The individuals, some of the more prominent cases of this were the folks who worked at Skinwalker Ranch while Bigelow Aerospace was running it. They would take these things home with them, and their wives would oftentimes just lose it because of all the weird stuff going on in the house after they came home from Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, I got to say this, and this is what got me thinking about the hitchhiker effect and how it may be real. Do you remember when we first started actually looking into the possibility of Bigfoot, and you drug me into it?
Yeah.
You have to remember it.
Yep,
And
I remember.
you had just got your house.
Yep.
And we had these conversations multiple times because we were going to the reptile shows, and you're making me listen to these podcasts about Bigfoot. And I'm thinking, wow, that's some crazy stuff. And then I keep hearing it. I'm like, wait a minute, this kind of starts making sense now. After we kind of started talking about that, you heard, and then you witnessed whatever was in your backyard.
Yeah. And my wife Kelly, she was there too, and she had, Kelly, God love her, I sprung all of this on her.
But she thought you were nuts too, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, she thought I was nuts too. I
had
sprung the whole Bigfoot thing on her after we got married. I had her locked in, and I was like, okay, so Kelly.
I mean, dude, it's
right here. Look at all this
she
stuff.
knew you were friends.
This is what I like,
and
that
was enough
so
for her.
Then we were sitting outside by the fire pit, and we had one of our friends over, and all of a sudden she started hearing it as well.
Yeah.
She got to hear it. But yeah, it was after we had started talking about it. But now, to be fair, on the same token, man, we bought this house and it was in an area where there was historic wildman activity too.
Okay, great, but wonderful. But look at this. So
it didn't start until after we talked about it.
After we did that, though, you started experiencing other strange paranormal-like phenomena in the house.
We've got like a weird ghost dog. Like it's like a Chihuahua sounding dog that we will hear in the house from time to time, like something that size. Not necessarily. I haven't seen a weird ghost.
Carly, we were talking about Bigfoot at the time and other strange paranormal kind of stuff. Well, actually, that's kind of how we gave, the whole idea of coming up with the radio.
It was
with Wildman Radio. Yeah, but I mean, we've all experienced it, right? I mean, when you were having that happen, and I've called you multiple times, and I said, "Hey, Joe, something weird just happened," and you'll be like, "Oh, that's weird because I had something weird happen last night too."
Yep,
and it's like
it's frequent.
You can't just really can't just write it off when you have like multiple occurrences of this stuff.
No, you can't at that point. So, Brandon, have you noticed anything weird like that with you having like some kind of a hitchhiker effect at any point? Because I know that you've been interested in this stuff for a while.
I think stuff is just attractive.
But I like what Pab's Corner just said there. Go ahead and pop that up on the screen.
That's what I'm getting ready to do. You opened up your mind to the possibilities, and all the weird stuff just finds you. It's the beacon effect, like we've talked about before.
Right. So the theory is that you're right. The theory is that there's the possibility that something inside of your brain literally is switched on. And that's what Nolan's kind of hinting at, that they've kind of found. Now, the question is, do we switch it on, or does something else switch it on? A contact with something that causes that? Is that what's happening? We don't know at this point. But how many of you guys out there? I mean, Teresa's here. Teresa, you're a paranormal researcher. You know as well as I do. Sometimes these things seem to follow you from place to place. Anyone else, if you've had any kind of weird paranormal experiences and looked into them only to have them escalate, so to speak, these are very real events. They're not made up. They're not imagined. There's some real stuff going on. I mean, no one knows what it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you it's aliens or it's ghosts. I'm just telling you that there's something there. We don't know what it is. And I think we have to be very, very, very careful when we make assertions and assumptions that we do know what this stuff is.
There's those people who believe that
Yes.
all of it is tied together to the same thing. Same root cause. Not hear me?
Yeah, your microphone
Say
keeps
again?
cutting in and out.
Yeah, say that again. Oh, what Carly just said.
I saw a YouTube video on a Reddit thread talking about how a girl started researching skinwalkers and then obsessing over them, and then she started hearing them and seeing them, and then she regretted it. Yeah. I mean, that's an example of this.
That's the one thing I don't mess with.
Yeah, the natives won't even say the native word for skinwalker. They can't even say it out loud.
Mm-mm.
That's like Christians believe that you shouldn't talk about demons because it'll cause them to come to you.
Now, your wife made a good point, and I think that she's talking pretty much about the same kind of phenomena. In my opinion, I think it's just labels, and I think we are talking about the same thing there.
Emily Wills says, I don't think you switch it on. I think you switch it off at some point, kind of like how kids see things more, etc. No, I think you might be onto something there, because how a kid's mind works and child's imaginations, and it's not necessarily we call it their imagination, but they have this innate ability to experience and see more, and we switch it off at a certain age, and then we switch it back on. I think you're onto something there, Emily. And then Teresa says, definitely. Both myself and Brian have seen Travis's Ovnik in our own homes. Oh. But we've had plenty of instances where seemingly pick up the same entity in our spirit boxes at different spots.
That's weird.
That is
Yes.
Very strange.
Huh.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like, how does it work? You have to try to figure it out. And what'd she say?
It's just stuff I'm throwing up on the screen for people.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you way better than we've been the whole show.
Okay.
It's great.
So like in the spirit community, they call that attachment. Everything's follow you around like that.
Yep. They
even call it
those
the
attachments,
Velcro
bring
effect?
something home, whatever, something like that. But this, I think that when you're dealing with some of these more spiritual terms, like what the attachment thing, a lot of the times those can seem to be very, very much way more demonic than having something weird happen. Like attachments versus this hitchhiker effect, it's almost like there's varying degrees in it, I think. Like it's very strange.
Yeah, if you watch Corbell's documentary on Skinwalker Ranch, he interviews some people who've been on the ranch. And a lot of times the people who own the ranch, they won't let strangers come on the ranch because they're the ones that stuff follows home, not the people who are there on a regular basis. It's the strangers who show up and start triggering things.
Oh yeah, dude. You wouldn't get me near that place. I'm not even joking. It's just
me, on the other hand, I would absolutely love to go.
Well, then we would not be friends because it would follow you home.
And I've been
Joe would show up there with a backhoe.
Knows one of the guys that's out there that could make it happen.
Joe would be out there with a bulldozer. Let me dig a hole.
Yeah, we'll dig a hole right here. Let's get it.
Uh-oh. There's a good question just came through.
But yeah, Jeff has actually got good friends that are connected with Skinwalker Ranch.
There's a really good question that just came through.
Oh, that is a good question. So are spirits attached to Bigfoot, or is Bigfoot attached to spirit? That would depend on which native mythology you're following. Or not mythology, but just stories. Which culture you're following on that? Because there are some that they're natural creatures that have the ability to step in and out of this realm, and then there's some that they're part of the creation story. You know, they're interwoven into the spiritual aspects of it. So that's a good question.
Here is an idea that I've had for a while. What if the Bigfoot who do the weird stuff have the woo factor? What if they're really just skinwalkers pretending to be Bigfoot?
Well, that would be awful far for the Navajo to travel, but it's possible because you see this stuff happen in a lot of different places. But we've got some weird theories about some of these Bigfoot-like encounters that are going on and how they could be connected to the phenomena.
Yeah.
Because we're definitely seeing, like, and we've talked about it before, and I think Brandon, I think I've even talked to you about it after that thing when we were there in St. Albans, that there are some really weird reports that we've taken, and there are some really weird things that have happened to us while we're out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is getting right into it. Look at the orbs associated with Bigfoot.
Yep.
You 100% are not wrong, my friend.
You hit it.
Whoops. So yeah, I clicked at the same time. Anyway, I've experienced those orbs, and it's while we were out Bigfooting, and then just a couple weeks ago, Ron and I had a very, very strange happening. We're not entirely sure what took place.
I'm not sure at all what that was.
It was bizarre, but we seemed to travel a very long distance in a very short amount of time, on foot in the rain, and we couldn't find this swath of blighted trees we were looking for, and suddenly we just couldn't make it. But then we got Pabs saying interdimensional beings or space Wookiees with transporters.
Could be that.
Maybe.
Could be that.
I like it. And Carly says, as in you think they're beings pretending to be Bigfoot.
Sometimes.
That is exactly what Ron thinks.
Yep.
And I tend to agree with him.
Sometimes.
So explain that real quick, since she's not heard that little bit. Just a brief snippet on what you think could be happening there.
Well, what I think could be happening there is kind of what Nolan was saying, that something is manipulating the image center of her mind. And I personally think that there's a possibility, just a possibility, that something is either A, tapping into that part to scare us away, that it knows what this is, or it knows what some of these creatures, or what we think some of these creatures are, just to scare us away and to get us away from the area. That's a possibility. There's other possibilities that go that, maybe just perhaps that the Bigfoot is really us, as in humans, before humans were manipulated X amount of, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And that is, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go there, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because
it's a possibility. It's a possibility. There's so many speculations. And that's what this show is about. This is all speculation stuff.
And then for me personally, I'm looking at it from the same projection of, if there's something out there that is pretending to be a Bigfoot, or it's Bigfoot like. It looks like Bigfoot, totally not Bigfoot. Now, here's where, just in the last few months, my brain has ventured. You know how all this AI art stuff is like stimming everywhere, and like you can't go on a social media site and not see it? One of the glaring missteps that, AI tends to make when creating a figure is it grabs and snags bits and pieces and then assembles them real quick, right? So that's why people have 8 and 10 fingers on one hand, and their teeth, they've got like 1 million teeth just in the front, like 8. And it could be possible that we're dealing with something that is somehow connecting to our mental relays, grabbing real quick what we think a Bigfoot looks like, but it's a real quick grab, and it's like, okay, assemble this and freak them out.
Yeah.
Based off what we're seeing with this AI art movement, it's taking AI, it's taking all these images and smashing them together to create something that is an abomination. And a lot of these weird Bigfoot reports that have glowing red eyes or floating or doing really strange things, they don't fit the bill for your normal Bigfoot report or their stature. So I think it's just something weird going on that could possibly be creating a screen image for us to see, but it's just like a really janky screen image because it's like, hurry, quick, get it down there, get the image out.
Yeah.
And this is just what it gets.
Yeah. I mean, and now we have to ask ourselves, and that is a smart man.
Yep. We've been doing that now as well for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Ever since the incident in Canal State Forest. What you said there, that would be the stimulation of the image center of the brain. So yeah, I mean, I could see that. I could see that happening.
So what I was meaning earlier is that if you look at some of these descriptions of some of the more bizarre Bigfoot reports that have other things like other paranormal activity going on, you're normally going to get these proportions. Sometimes a lot different. You're going to be seeing behavior descriptions that are going to be broadly different than what you get from your what I call a standard Bigfoot report. And you're also going to have things where you get these deviations in sometimes weather. Like if you get the weather from the person, like what kind of the weather was going on, but then you go back and look and the weather was definitely not what they said it was. You'll have these anomalies that take place in those sighting reports, and that's what I was getting at there.
So you heard about these weird phenomena where people go in the woods and they'll look through like the branches of a tree and they're looking at a totally different forest. Maybe it's something weird like that.
Yes, you absolutely have to worry about man, bear, pig. Yes, absolutely. In fact, me and Maria have been conducting an experiment for the past year and a half now, trying to go out into the woods and seeing a giant, what is it? Care bear.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there you go. That's nightmare fuel.
So if that works, then we know that we're right.
So, Brandon, what were you saying?
So, like, I've heard people report in the last few years that they'll go out in the woods and they'll look between like the branches of a tree, in particular ones that are shaped like a circle. They'll see a toe through.
They'll see what now?
Like a different forest. They'll see like
it's like
the
fairy doors or whatever.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Portals.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Now we didn't see anything different through it, but we did see what you're talking about.
Yep. It's interesting, like I want to know more about that stuff. Like that intrigues me a lot because I've seen those types of things that aren't fully normal. Like okay, so we get a lot of these pictures sent in from various people from different websites, etc. that are like broken branches all piled up on one another, and everybody's like, Bigfoot did it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not too big on those personally. I've seen too much storm damage happen right in front of my face to know what could be natural versus what's not. And then coming into these areas where I see these bowed trees, they're bent. And sometimes the tip of them is jammed into the ground on the other side. And those can be 8-9 feet tall doorways, essentially, where a tree is just bowed over and the top of it is stabbed in the ground. And it's still alive. This isn't a dead tree by any means. This is still a living tree that has just been bent over and jammed into the ground. And it's weird. I don't know what to think of those, but those were strange. And we did see a couple of those while we were out last time, which was just, again, those are odd. Like when I see a tree that doesn't have something dead hanging on it, doesn't have another tree that's forcing it to bend, it's a nice, uniformed, perfect bend in it. Those are peculiar and worth taking note.
All I can tell you is I think that there's something out there. And, you know, I think we had this conversation. It hides very well. I mean, the
Yeah.
only people that are out there looking for it are people that are hiking or, you know, us. And the hikers, you know, could probably stay away from. But when you got somebody out there who's actually looking for stuff, then you know, it comes a little different. But who's going to see it? You know, I mean, how many people are around when the tree falls in the woods, so to speak, you know?
Right.
So
It's true. Oh, I want to hear more about your time travel hike. We're going to get into that a little bit more later because we did film a lot while we were out there. We were
filmed
making
the
these
whole
segments.
thing except for one missing crucial piece. And I really want to go back
Yeah.
to make sure that what we did isn't impossible.
Based off the GPS markers, I wouldn't call it impossible, but we weren't
Improbable.
sprinting at the same time.
Well, it was,
We were leisurely walking, looking,
pouring down the rain.
and it was raining, like crazy raining. It wasn't just like sprinkling. We were wearing ponchos, and it was pouring.
Yeah, it was like Bering Sea rain. That's what
Yeah.
it was. You know, it was crazy.
So we're going to get into that more with that episode and after we do that episode, we'll do a live probably right with it and have one of these talks about that outing because it was really interesting because like just to tell you one of the things that happened, there was a certain area that we were looking for that we had walked by. We stood in, we took some readings while we were in it and then walked on, and then on the walk back it wasn't there. We were like, oh yeah, we're coming on it, it's right up here, we're coming up on it.
Never
and
saw
then all
it.
of a sudden there's the bench that was right there at the mouth of opening one of the trails, and we were like, we passed this forever ago, we should not be back on it right now. So that was there's kind of the brief synopsis of what took place there, and then we're going to do more of a deep dive with that later.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, maybe it's just manifestation because I was soaking wet and cold and didn't want to be in the woods anymore. And I just made us materialize
Yeah.
half a mile down the road. I don't know. But no, it was actually a really good hike that day. The weather was not that bad. It was just pouring down rain, but it was good.
Oh, something I just thought of we could discuss since you're talking about forest. That photo that Russ posted yesterday that came out Kanawha State Forest. Wasn't it Kanawha State Forest?
Yeah, it was Kanawha State Forest. So I brought that up on my computer and I zoomed it in real tight. Have you done that yet?
Not yet.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that somebody marker affected it in the phone, like used the markup effect, because it's not a solid mass. You can actually see through it, so it's transparent. Now, if it was a real photo and there was a transparent dark mass there, that's still very intriguing. So, yeah, that's my take on it. I think it was manipulated in the markup feature in the app editor.
That's interesting.
Because it's got some let's see. I don't have it staged, otherwise we'd bring it up here. But let me grab it on my phone and I can kind of put it up to my camera and show you guys. Because I did use my phone to kind of manipulate it a bit.
Where did he post this thing at?
It was over on his Facebook page, his West Virginia Bigfoot page. Here we go. So this is the photo. And it's actually really close to where the deer that was completely ripped apart was found. But when you zoom in really tight on it.
Is it the one from Morgan County?
No, this is actually from Kanawha State Forest.
Oh, Kanawha State Forest. I don't see it.
Yeah, it's from Kanawha State Forest. And when you zoom in on it from there, it gets real fuzzy around the edges. and there's stuff like from the background bleeding through it. Like particularly right in here, there's some foliage that's continual from the background coming across that is just marked over. I don't know. Can you guys see that?
Kinda see that.
Yeah, there's foliage from the background that is visible through the dark mass.
Okay.
So like if that dark mass was there, that's intriguing. But I don't think that
Okay, I found the actual.
alleged Bigfoot.
I found the picture of it here.
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and grab this and pop it up here for us.
cool.
Okay. I'm going to turn this one on. I got to turn on monitor number 2. Hang on. And
I understand people's want for attention so much that they'll just go out and fake something. And
there we go. I got it.
Yeah, and you know, and Russ even said on the thing that he was just sharing what was sent to him, and because he just tries to get the collective consensus, he puts that out there to let everybody see it and stuff. But
hang on a second, I'm getting it, guys. Bear with me. Gotta get this thing down here on number 2. Okay.
You know what I thought was a hand when I initially saw that picture is just like something hanging off the tree, like moss on the side of it.
Yeah, it's either a leaf or something to that effect.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Screen. And
yeah, Emily Wills is saying she could see this foliage. But yeah, see, there's the unblown up version. And as you zoom in on it and go in tight, you can actually start to see it's not solid.
yeah, that doesn't look solid. Oh, I see what you mean. It looks
Yeah,
like,
you can see the foliage peeking
Oh.
through.
Yeah. Dude, I can tell you what this is. That honestly just looks like someone took a they just either did like you said.
Because as you can see, that yellow circle is semi-transparent.
Right. It's the same way with the black.
Yeah, it's the same thing
So-
with the black. I think they just they took their finger, made a mark, and then went through and erased down the side of the tree.
It kind of looks like that, where it was, just a screen. It's easy to do. I mean, this is,
Oh, yeah.
this is not good. Okay. Yeah. I agree. I think everybody's in agreements on that. That looks like it's probably not.
Beat the
Well,
squatch
guys,
out of that one.
You beat
We've been going at it for an hour and a half. I think we're
Wow.
Anything else? You guys got anything else? Ron, Brandon, anything?
Oh, I thought you were asking the audience.
Oh no, yeah, the audience too. Yeah, everybody.
Sorry, I was watching them.
Pab's Corner asked, did Russ take the photo or just post it? It was just posted. It was something that was sent to him in a report.
Yeah, he said that they wouldn't give him any more information.
Yeah.
Wow. That's always
Red flag.
Yeah, that's a red flag and a half, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's go into summary and I think and kind of end you making contact, because man, it was a heck of a series, and really, you guys need to definitely go over there and make sure that you, if you have not already done so, that you you go listen to that and watch it.
Yeah.
Actually, don't just listen to it, watch it, because that's the one that I did a lot of work on, just throwing some documents and whatnot in there and drawing out the conclusion. But it is my belief, personal belief, this speculation, right? So we have people who always want to know what I think, and you really probably don't, but you asked for it, so why not? What I really think is that we are being groomed to the acceptance of something that is coming. Is it hostile? I do not know. Will the government make it hostile? Yes. And let me tell you why they'll make it hostile.
Yeah.
They will make it hostile because that's how they get funding. That's how you get major bills passed, which give you, billions and billions of dollars of defense spending. Who's going to turn that away? No one's going to turn that away.
Yep.
I mean, if you actually have an unknown threat, okay, you're in there. You don't have to do anything. Okay, well, there's aliens. Okay, we're not calling them that, but there's something coming here. We can't say aliens because that'll scare people. Okay, well, let's just say they're UAP. Okay, it works. But we got to study it. Okay, here's some money. Now, well, we showed that these things are flying around planes and they're a threat to aviation. Are they really? Because they've been doing this since we've had aircraft.
Yep.
I don't remember a Foo Fighter ever slamming in to any of our bombers or any of our planes.
There was one German group that said that one of their aircraft was taken down by a Foo Fighter.
It's come on.
But it was one time, and it was probably, honest to God, it was just them blaming the Foo Fighter.
You just
after
showed
being shot down.
Bigfoot hiding behind a tree.
Right.
So yeah, this is what I'm getting at. I do think that these things are very real. I don't know what they are. I mean, my speculation is my speculation. I think that they've been here a very long time. You can call them aliens. You can call them extra dimensionals. You can call them gods, demons, angels. I don't care what you call them because the word's not there. There's a thing that's missing, and they're somewhere in between all that. No, I didn't say they were God. I said they were gods, as in Stargate. Go watch Stargate. You'll understand.
Yeah.
That's the gold and the what was it? I can't remember all the
gold.
Gold. There was the other ones. Darn. Oh no.
I can't remember. I'm gonna have to go back and watch them.
Guardians.
Yep, Guardians. And the race war was. What was he?
Right. So let's think about this. So you had the gold, right? Bad guys.
Yep.
And what did the humans do? They made contact with
the bad guys.
Guardians. No, there's Guardians.
Well, they made contact with the gold first, and then they made contact with Guardians.
With the bad ones first. You're right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Then they made contact with the Asgardians, who said, "Hey, you can't do that. We'll help you, but we can't really help you. You can't make this
if we're getting Asgardians."
Yeah.
Just saying, you can't make this stuff up. And if you've been watching social media of late, there is a new trend that is starting to take up again, and I know why it's happening. There's been this image of the crop circle going around. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, well, it's out there because the last episode of Ancient Aliens, they did a really good episode on crop circles, and it's really good, by the way. Great episode. I suggest you watch it. But in one of them, they showed that crop circle with the alien in the field with the binary circle around it that said something like, the deceivers, and we oppose the deceivers, etc. And everyone's writing their own thing into this. Guys, I want to tell you what. We don't know what they are.
Yeah.
That's just flat out. You can say what you want them to be. It doesn't matter. It's enough just to say that they're there. For me, there's something there. It's intelligent. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it's from. We think it's been here for a very long time. And giving them labels and giving them motives, that's into a belief system. And we need answers at this point rather than just faith and belief, in my opinion.
Brandon, final thoughts.
Well, I have no doubt in my mind that the government knows something. They're waiting for the right time to say it.
Well, guys, I hope you've all had a good time. I know that I've had a blast, and I think that, like with Ron had said, I think we're in disclosure. It already happened, and the fact that they're acknowledging some of these historic accounts just goes forward to say it even more. Yep. We're going to be doing more of these in the future. I hope you've all had a great time. If you're not subscribed to the show, go over and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Go over and like the Facebook page, Wild and Weird West Virginia Paranormal Talk, and then catch us out on the road. It's been a blast. Thanks for hanging out with us so long, everybody. And make sure to check out wildandweirdwv.com. And if you've had a sighting, there's a little sightings report tab you can go hit and get a hold of us there, or just continue to tell us some topics you want us to cover on the live shows even.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. Give us some topics because we need them.
Otherwise, you're just going to have to listen to us coming on here and talk for a while. And
we'll ramble on forever if that's what you want. But
we went for an hour and a half and it felt like nothing. But
yeah, absolutely.
Now you guys know what it's like being trapped with me and Ron in the car on the way to a big event somewhere.
You always wondered how that happened. Now you know. Joe,
I have several group chats now.
Yeah, right.
what is it?
Several group chats now too. People can talk to us.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
We do. We absolutely do. You can also reach us over at our socials. You can watch. Joe makes some really cool stuff. I make some okay stuff. You can go watch that kind of stuff over at our tags there too. If you're not, I am the Mothman artist over on TikTok. Joe is Joe Purdue.
Yeah, I got real creative.
That's very creative. And then on Instagram, I'm Landon Ron, and he is Skinwalker Sculpts. Brandon, I don't know who you are.
He's an anomaly.
He's an anomaly. Brandon is an anomaly. So anyway, I really hope that you guys can make it back again next week. We'll be doing these again. Like I said, shoot us over some ideas for some future shows, and we will definitely be out there, and we'll be doing this again for sure.
So one last time before we go out, Patrick, Chris, Ike, Pab's Corner, Emily Wills, Carly, Kelly, who else did we get in here? Did we get them all? Oh yeah, Teresa. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been an absolute blast and a privilege to hang out with you guys. We'll see you back here again next week. It'll be next Thursday at around 8 p.m. And stay wild and weird, y'all.